Okay, independent living students, welcome to the Choosing a Place to Live presentation lecture. Possibly one of the most exciting aspects of beginning your independent life, and that is picking that first place of residence. However, it is a decision not to be taken lightly, and there are a number of different options, and there are also some benefits and drawbacks to different living options and places of residence, which we will be going through not only in this presentation lecture, but also with some guided practice and independent practice activities in class. So let's go ahead and get started on the basics of choosing a place to live. Okay, let's say, for example, you're getting ready to live independently. Okay, so you're moving out of your parents' home. Maybe you've just finished your associate degree, you've just finished your bachelor's degree, or you're deciding that you're going to go right into the labor force after you've completed high school. And so now you've got your first job and you have some income, and now you want to move out of your parents' home and have your own place to live. So it's a little bit of a daunting task, but at the same time, it's also very, very exciting. So you want to have your own place to live. So what do you do in order to get to that point? Well, as you begin the process, the first thing you want to do is ask some questions. What are you looking for in a place to live? There are two very basic options. There is either renting a residence or there is buying or owning a residence. Do you want a large place? You want to take into consideration things like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms are you looking for? Do you want to be in the city or where there are some trees? This is basically the question of, do you want to be in an urban area, which is more like a city, or a rural area, which is a less populated area from a population standpoint? Do you want to be where you can walk to work? Do you not have a vehicle? Do you want to help on your expenses by not having a vehicle, thus allowing you to walk to work? That's going to be an important question to ask. Do you want to live alone or with roommates? We'll take a look at examples for both. In some cases, and sometimes many cases, individuals who go and live independently, they take on a roommate to kind of help with some of the expenses. All right, so attached here, you'll see a link to a resource titled What Do You Want? This is an activity that we will be doing in class to kind of take you through the process of looking at a place of residence and exactly what you want before searching for that place of residence, and then obviously making a decision. So once you know what you want, next thing is well, what can you afford? This is another activity that we'll be doing in class, but you can preview it by clicking on the link and watching the video as well as taking a look at the worksheet. This is a simple process on determining what would be comfortable for you to afford. Obviously, you don't want to overextend yourself. So a guideline used in deciding how much to pay for housing is usually between a quarter to a third of your income. If it's costing you anything more than that to pay for your place of residence, you could be in a situation where you're overextending yourself. We want to avoid that at all costs. So let's say, for example, you make $200 a week, and in a month, 200 times 4 equals $800. So you basically have $800 a month of income coming in. So if we have a quarter of that going towards our housing or our residence, we're looking for somewhere in the range of $200, determining how much we can afford. If we were going to go a little bit further than that and take a third of our income, now we're looking at something around the $270 mark per month for a place of residence. So you might plan to spend between this much per month on your housing, and that includes the rent and the utilities. This is why in some cases, or in sometimes many cases, individuals who begin living independently have a roommate to kind of help with those expenses. All right, if you take a look at the links that are here, you can take, and this is another activity that we'll be doing in class as we analyze these, in our geographical area, which is Oshkosh houses and apartments. They are available for rent. So if you take a look at these two resources by clicking on the links, you'll get a chance to research a little bit as what it's going to cost to rent either a house or an apartment in the Oshkosh area. All right, so now you've determined what you want in a rental property or a residence. You've also determined how much you can afford. Now, how do I go about making that place of residence my own? There is an application process, and there's a couple of different activities we'll be doing in class with this as well to take us through the application process, as well as get to know what to expect when it comes to getting into that or entering into an agreement for your place of residence. So when it comes to how to complete the application, there are some applications now that can be completed online. And if they are completed online, then this first point won't really matter. But you do want to complete an application if it is a paper or hard copy application in ink. And if you do make mistakes, do not scribble out. Use whiteout to help with the processing of the application, as well as making the information clear and easy to read. Make sure that you have the correct spelling. If you're not sure how to spell something, look it up. You have resources at your fingertips right now. So don't shortchange the process and breeze through something and rush through it and spell something incorrectly. Take your time, look things up if needed. Make sure you have correct capitalization. So not only are we looking for proper spelling, but we're also looking for proper grammar. Make sure that not to have any abbreviations. So do not abbreviate avenue, street, etc. However, you can abbreviate the state in which you are applying for rental. So in this case, if it's Wisconsin, it's WI. Make sure to leave no blank spaces, NA or double dash, if there is an area that does not apply to your application for this particular property. If you leave blank spaces, they might think that you missed it or skipped that information. So by indicating an NA or a double dash, it means that you've read it, it does not apply, and you're indicating it on the application. Make sure that you give thorough information. Be as detailed and accurate as possible when you are completing your application for employment. And obviously, I think it goes without saying, but just as a reminder, you obviously want to be honest. They will check. They want to make sure that you are who you say you are, and they want to make sure that you're going to be a reliable tenant, whether or not you're going to rent this property or not. Personal information. Obviously, again, wanting to be 100% accurate. You will be required to give your date of birth. You will be required to give your social security number. Remember, the correct format is a 3-digit followed by a dash, followed by a 2-digit, followed by a dash, followed by 4 digits. Make sure you enter that in there correctly because they will be checking again on you to make sure that you are a reliable tenant. And if not, they might not grant you access or approve your application and allow you to rent the property. Phone format typically is going to be area code in parentheses followed by your 7-digit phone number. If it's your first place to live on your own, indicate that in the reason for living. This is going to help the possible landlord determine why they might not have any history of places that you've lived because this is your first place you're living on your own. Employment information. Obviously, employers want to know whether or not their tenants will be able to pay their rent. So in this situation, you want to make sure that you put your current as well as previous employers, name of the company, not boss/manager. They're just looking to verify that you were employed. Annual income, you can put your hourly wage, but make sure you include how many hours you generally work in a week. Typically, a full-time position would be 40 plus hours in a week. The reason for leaving your last residence, make sure that you are thorough and honest. Maybe it's because you had an this is not from your previous residence. This is for your previous employer. My mistake. So you want to be thorough and honest. Insufficient wage, moved to another city, conflict with management, terminated, etc., etc. They will be calling to verify this information, so make sure that it is accurate. Inaccurate information or incomplete information may cost you the opportunity to be able to rent this residence. Okay, references too. These are very, very important. You must fill in all of them. Who should you use? Well, that's a good question. Friends, coaches, teachers, even youth group leaders or coworkers would be great options. Who shouldn't you use? Family members or bosses. Reason you want to stay away from these individuals, family members are obviously going to be biased. Bosses, possibly as well, depending upon what was the reasons for you leaving your last place of employment. So you might not be a good one to use there. But obviously, friends, coaches, teachers, youth group leaders, coworkers would be good examples. Make sure you ask permission to use them. Do not just put somebody down as a reference and they get cold called and they're wondering why. They might not even think it's legit or somebody trying to possibly do something malicious and obtain personal information. So make sure you give these references a heads up that they might be being contacted. And then your emergency contacts in case of an emergency. Who should the landlord contact? It should be someone that's not living with you. If you and your roommate get caught in an apartment and unfortunately the apartment catches on fire, you both escape, and your emergency contact is the person who is living with you, well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. So it should be somebody who's not living with you. Who should be called if there's an emergency or if you are injured or you can't be contacted? Think about that. Anybody who's not living in the residence, obviously, some of your closest contacts, probably very similar to who you might have as an emergency contact at your place of employment. Probably would be the same place here as well. Okay, then if you see here, there is the application process. So if you click on the links, here's a couple of resources as to what the application process might look like, as well as what an application might look like. There are many different formats, but obviously a lot of them are looking for very, very similar information. This concludes the presentation lecture on choosing a place to live. So make sure that you answer the embedded questions. Mark this as done in Google Classroom once you have completed it. And again, be looking forward to, because we'll be working through some of these activities in class so you can get a handle on this choosing a place to live process and take the necessary steps to find that first perfect place of residence. I'll see you next time we meet in class.